First of all, I know you folks have recognized my fellow Iowan, Ryan Page, who's here and Director of Child Care for Iowa. And we thank you for coming to share your experiences with us. So I'm going to start out with you, Director Page. Finding solutions to improve affordability of child care is very much a overall workforce issues. Could you share how public and private partnerships are driving access to child care in Iowa, and if there are any lessons learned that other states and communities could consider?
Sure. We've done several different grants and opportunities to work either directly with businesses or to support public-private partnerships between government, business, local community. With our businesses, we have a couple of opportunities where we do a cost-sharing arrangement with the business to offset the cost of childcare for its employees. We have also done some brick and mortar things at the state level, so not necessarily as it relates to CCDF, to do childcare facilities at businesses. And then we also are doing wage enhancement kind of pilot projects in several communities where we've been able to have businesses invest funding into a pool, if you will, and the local chambers of commerce or economic development are then helping support the childcare facilities of that local community with that business funding.
Also for you, we must ensure that families living in rural areas also have access to this care. You shared in your testimony that I was working to gather data to better understand availability of child care slots and the capacity to operate it. Can you discuss what factors you're looking at to gather data and information about child care in rural and how this will support the state's efforts to provide child care access?
Absolutely. So what we know right now is that we have numbers of slots that are available, and we might know it by county or city level, but slots doesn't tell us enough of the story. So what we're really trying to identify is what is our operational capacity. A child care facility might be licensed for a certain number of children, but they may not actually be able to serve that number of children, perhaps because of workforce issues, or they choose not to. And so that's the number that we really need to be identifying so that we know the true number of availability. We also need to look at it by age group, and then we also need to be thinking about families who actually need care. Again, I mentioned 75% of children under the age of 6 have all available parents in the workforce in Iowa. Not all 75% of those folks need childcare, and so we need to be thinking about access and flexibility. So a licensed child care center may not thrive in a small rural community. So it's really about lifting up that family child care home space or other relative care that families may choose.
Dr. Stevens, you discussed the impact of bureaucratic silos across the federal funding for early childhood education, and that states play a key role in children's development and their workforce. In any potential effort to streamline federal programs for early care and education, how do we see integration of state and communities to ensure they have a seat at the table in administering these programs?
Thank you for that question, Senator Grassley. The way that the federal funding streams that fund child care is sort of through history set up at the federal government is really dysfunctional from the point of view of states and communities. So there are three major funding streams: the Child Care Development Fund, Head Start, and TANF dollars. States are allowed to transfer up to $4.95 billion of TANF dollars to CCDF. So we've got these three funding streams with entirely separate, at the federal level, administrative structures, monitoring requirements, et cetera. In the 2014 reauthorization of CCDBG, the law actually called for the HHS and the Department of Ed to do a thorough inventory of all of the programs in those two agencies that give funding for early care and education, and to submit a recommendation to Congress on how to integrate and streamline them. I don't believe that's happened, and that would be a hugely great first step, just to understand what we're dealing with, so that what the federal government funding streams are actually usable money for state and local actors. There's another mechanism that I described in my written testimony called a federal performance partnership. It's the OMB actually is encouraging their use, but it's very underutilized. And what it does is the goal of performance partnerships are to amplify the impact of existing funding streams by minimizing legislative, regulatory, and administrative barriers to more effectively meet real life needs on the ground. So what states have to apply for them, or community, around a particular purpose. So for example, a more effective parent choice-driven access to childcare. And they would then put forward a proposal. It would be a competitive thing, and they would then be given a waiver from all these various requirements. And that kind of experiment, that kind of pilot, would help us better understand how the existing funding streams could be used more effectively.